Good morning. I'm going to call to order the Kitsap Transit Board of Commissioners Work Study Meeting for October 21st. And we have a published agenda. Is everybody comfortable with what they see on the agenda? And chairperson's comments. The rain's coming tomorrow. So fall is upon us. The leaves are falling and the rain is coming. So we're going to jump here a little bit on. I thank you, Anna, for showing up. We're still one short of a quorum, so we're gonna wait on our acts and who are discussions, and the first of which resolution 2572. Well, actually, that's an action item too. How about a World Cup discussion? Can we do?
Well, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
No, John, Mayor, can we go to the regular comments? Next.
What would you like to do, John?
Well, we can certainly go there. That's one item, but I could just share that I wanted to talk. We had a discussion or already maybe some part for the homeless. Want to get guidance from the board if you do that. That'll take a little bit of effort on, for example, parking rights that have been funded with federal dollars to get MPAs.
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely correct. Thank you. Anyway, we'll have to get FTA's approval before we could do that for any of the parking rights we own. There are a number of the parking rights that's owned by the state. The McQueen right, for example, Mullen right. Those are parking rights that are owned by the state. So we'd have to talk with them to see if that's something that they would entertain. And then finally, there's a fair number of parking rights throughout the community that are what we refer to as co-ops. So we're utilizing church parking lots for park and ride needs. So obviously we don't own the park and rides. We have an agreement. So we'd have to reach out to the churches to see if they would be willing to entertain. And then assuming that some will and some won't, we'll have to figure out how to identify, which park and rides would be eligible. The other aspect, and we've been doing kind of a test of this in Paul's park and ride. And part of the interest that we have, of course, is who's going to police it? Who is going to not only be responsible for any litter, garbage, or whatever that is deposited, if there are issues, or is there, who's going to be responsible for literally policing it, I guess, in that case, and who is going to be responsible for this person is approved to park there and this person is not. So, I mean, there's a lot of logistical things that we would have to work through, and it might be different from different areas. It could possibly be some service agencies of some type or some community. So we'd have to make sure that whomever it is that is going to take on that responsibility would have, if you will, standing to be able to do the things that we're talking about. So I just wanted to bring that up. I know there was discussion there, and we didn't really have any kind of clear consent board, so I wanted to get that.
Who's managing is it Fish Line doing the one in Paul, or is it a different nonprofit?
I'd have to go back and check. I think the city is involved with it.
Is it Fish Line?
I think the city is involved with it as well. To what extent, I'm not sure, but I think.
Fish Line and a church.
Okay. I like that model,
Mhm.
and I'm open but I don't think we should be the one driving it. I think when we're approached by like the opportunity that's happening in Paulsbo with somebody wanting to manage it and take responsibility for it, that we should support that. But you're right, we've got to make sure that in those, I know like Harper Church, it's a partnership and we got to check in with our partner to make sure, and if it's done right, I would hope that they would be receptive to it, but I think it's got to be the driving force has got to be a nonprofit like, or a bit like Fishline or somebody of that nature that's going to be monitoring it, hopefully providing services, so that this isn't a way of life in our park and ride lots.
The one that we're doing in Paulsville was, this is just a little demonstration project to see, is it going to work? And then if it does seem feasible, and even the North Park and Ride has federal dollars in it. So if this is going to be a long-term kind of a thing, we're going to have to go to FTA and get their support in doing something like this. So.
Other thoughts? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Board members, make sure your microphone's on.
So I strongly support this proposal, and the only thing I would think about is that Mullinex, for example, is one of the park and rides that has a really high occupancy. So we don't like to be looking for ones that have slightly lower usage. One of the elements of this proposal that hasn't been presented this morning is these are all people who would be vetted. They would be, or that's the proposal, is people working poor, people who are and living in their car. This isn't, I'm not gonna have my RV towed here, and so this is an opportunity for us to really be of use. And I think we should seize it with both hands.
And you raise a very good point as far, because again, our interest would be who's vetting them, and to make sure that whomever it is that vets them has standing of some sort. So
This is being done right.
Yes.
Because
Yeah,
we're not
right.
the ones that are going to be doing that vetting. We're
Exactly.
providing the parking space. We need that nonprofit or other partner.
whomever is the responsible party.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I know it may be putting the cart before the horse, but I'd like this to be a little active instead of waiting people come to us like with, a state one, of going out to state and saying, if we're approached, could we do this?
Mhm.
And instead of kicking the can down the road. So if we could be a little bit proactive on the, whether with FTA, the state, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that's what our intent would be, but I wanted to get a consensus of the board as to whether or not this is something that you folks would be willing to support, and then we can go through, get the necessary buy-offs for each lot. We're not going to go out and advertise it, but if somebody approached us, we could say, well, this lot is available, and here's the criteria that we'd have to use. And then I think that ultimately we'd have to determine, the maximum number that we would allow in a particular lot based on the current usage or expected usage.
The other that is David's specialty is
I'm sorry.
the liability. issue.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we got to have insurance
Yeah.
and all.
Yeah,
that
we-
thing.
I'm sure I haven't had a friend to my left here, but can only be
My ears
involved
are
in
perked up.
it. So that would be part of the due diligence to be able to even do something like this.
I think it's great.
So I'm seeing a whole lot of head nodding, so we'll go
We get,
ahead.
as long as it's done right.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and start looking at that.
Okay.
Now that we have a quorum.
We're going to go back.
Sorry, Matt.
Beginning agenda. So, yeah.
The Kitsap Community Resources Housing Solutions Center might be another resource for like, how will people be directed to these lots?
Whomever.
All right, let's back to our action items. We have, two consent items on our agenda. It's under item. Is there a motion to approve the consent items? Councilmember, go ahead.
To approve the consent items as presented.
Second.
All right, we have Councilmember Rose Pepe, a second by Commissioner Rolfes to approve the consent items as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the consent items have been approved. Now we're to our full discussion items, the first of which is Resolution 2572, approval of increased security hours in Port Orchard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This resolution is, as you, I hope know, we have be in a variety of locations and we perform security in a variety of ways. A lot of it is we have a contract with a private security firm that security. For example, we have 24/7 here at the permanent ferry terminal and the parking lots, and we also have some, kind of visits to various locations. We have security at Charleston facility and so on. We also have security in Port Orchard, primarily around the ferry terminal and on the ferries. And with some of the increases around that we're seeing, not necessarily specific to, but we feel that it's important for, if nothing else, the safety of our own employees and crews to expand the hours of service of their contract to be able to provide support. Now, these folks not only are providing security around the Port Orchard terminal, but also occasionally they will be riding the boats between Port Orchard and Bremerton just to have an increased security presence. So we feel it's important and move forward with their contract to be able to expand the hours that primarily is both in Port Orchard as well as on the ferries between Port and Bremerton. There is an additional cost to providing this. You can see in the resolution that this would be an additional $92,000. I guess now with the new laws that state passed plus sales tax, as well as, for the remainder of this year, we're talking about, I guess, 33,000.
880.
Anyway, we're asking to go ahead. It's beyond my authority to expand their contract. So, and I just think it's good to sure aware of this sort of thing too. So.
It's unfortunate that we need this, but I support this. I've been noticing the presence when I've been riding the ferry back and forth. I want to touch, we just had an incident, matter of fact.
I'd be happy to. As a matter of fact, yesterday morning, early here at the Bremerton facility, we had an individual. If you're familiar with our facilities, at night we have large gates that close off the access to the floats right at the shoreline, basically. And an individual climbed through, these are like 6 foot tall gates. They were able to climb over the top of the gate between the opening of the roof line and the top of the gates, went down to our ferries, untied completely one of our RP boats.
Whoa.
And untied all but one line on the other RP and left. And then our security folks are part of their schedule was to go unlock the gates in the morning in preparation for the commute. Well, shortly after they unlocked the gate, another individual went down, jumped on the one vessel that still had one, untied the vessel, and who knows, for whatever reason, jumped off of the vessel back onto the dock. But both vessels, actually one of them, the first one that got untied, floated, touched the vessel that's parked out at the end and rotated around it, and it was off to where you couldn't reach it. They had to get a boat to get to it, and the other one they were able to get lassoed back to the dock before it departed too far away from the docks here. So anyway, we're going to be doing some increased security at this dock. We're looking at another gate fence, as well as making improvements to the existing gate to eliminate that space between the two. We've also changed the routine of our security folks. As part of their normal walk around that they do all night long, they have up to now would go check the gate, make sure that it was secure, but now they're gonna walk all the way down to check the boats all night long to make sure that we have it. And if you remember, this is the second time that we've had somebody go down, and the last time we had somebody that basically thought that they were gonna go for a ride on the boat and broke into the. Both vessels sustained some damage in the sense that they broke the windows on one window on the. So actually, we've got the Coast Guard involved in it. The Coast Guard is reviewing it because technically, with the larger vessels, we have to have security, much greater security around it. So we have yet another gate and fence that if you ride the RP boats, the Bremerton route, you'll notice that when you get on the boat, just on the outward side of it, there's another gate that gives you access to that part of the dock where the larger boat is. So that's why we're probably going to have to move and put in yet another secure system. We are in the process of upgrading our CCTVs for that area as well. We were able to get some video of both of the individuals that happened yesterday. So we've turned that over to the Bremerton Police Department.
Commissioner, go ahead.
That was actually my question, was why have security cameras? It sounds like we do.
We have videos for a lot around here, and we're in the process of upgrading it because the technology that we're using is old and isn't quite as crisp and clear as today's technology. So we were able to get a grant to upgrade that technology. So we're in that process. We went out to bid.
So you do have video of.
We do have video of the situation yesterday. So we've got pretty good images of the two individuals that went down there, but still we have to replace glass in the boats, and thank goodness it didn't damage the Commander, which is the larger boat, or damage the RP boats, but it did. We had to cancel the first round of service while we secured the vessels and checked them out and made sure that we could operate.
So Mayor Wheeler's on the job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds like malicious mischief. They didn't steal anything.
Don't know. Why would, I guess malicious mischief is a good example. Why would you just untie the boat and walk
'Cause it's
away?
fun.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense, but
Deranged.
See
by
what
it.
that, well, I want to see the age range.
I thought seriously about calling you, Mr. Mayor Wheeler, yesterday morning when I got the call at 4:30 about finding it, but I thought, I'll let you sleep.
Yeah.
You made the right call,
Yeah.
911.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man, yeah.
All right, back to which is increased security. Is there a motion?
No.
Go ahead, council member.
Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 2572, authorizing staff to increase contracted security service hours to align with the Port Orchard Ferry hours at an annual increase of $101,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Rosepepe and a second by Councilor Wheeler. Further discussion of security? Go ahead.
Just an observation that the conversation we just had was really relevant to
Yeah,
this.
no, it's
right?
just in
So
security. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the follow-up to last night's malicious mischief is to up our security at night. These are really expensive assets.
Yeah, and we're getting estimates right now and moving forward with secure access better than what we have today. And we've already modified, we have 24/7 security. We've modified the routine of where they're, checking all night long to include walking down the dock, even if the gate's closed, walk down to the dock and make sure everything's fine. So shouldn't I don't have an exact date of when we'll have the new system installed, but we're moving forward with upgrading the cameras. So.
Councilmember, go ahead.
Just had a question. Would this require a budget amendment down the road or is?
Which
for
This
the increase in
resolution?
secu- No, for the increase of
future
security.
improvement.
I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be to that level that we're going to have to, and it will. The camera system, we're already moving forward with the upgrades. We're talking about having some gates installed, and it's going to be a few $1,000s, but it's not.
No, I was just fully supportive. I want to make sure we're
Yeah.
dotting our i's and crossing our t's.
All right, that you'll be voting on resolution 2572 to approve increased security hours for the Port Orchard Ferry. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. The resolution passes unanimously. So we are now to our World Cup discussion.
Yes, and this truly is to be just a discussion. We wanted to kind of do a check report on anticipating what we're doing and get your guidance to should we be doing more, should we be doing less? So again, this is no action. This is just for discussion. So the first thing that I wanted to share with the board is the fact that there has been dollars allocated to the World Cup event. It's a complicated formula. We have to apply for our portion of it. Our portion is the $315,000. So that's from the funds that the legislature has already allocated towards impact to World Cup. So in essence, we're getting $315,000 and we have to apply for it. The applications are due December 1. So now that number could, the funding allocation is specific to agencies. There are a couple agencies in this that have monies allocated. I question whether or not they will actually apply for it. The transit system in Yakima, for example, or the transit system in Tri-Cities, not quite sure how they're going to be impacted by World Cup. And my point is if they do not apply for those funds will then be proportionately distributed out to those agencies that applied. So you're not talking a whole lot, especially in light of whatever is going to be split by, for example, community transit, Pierce Transit. So I wouldn't attempt to go up a lot. Anyway, I just wanted to make sure that the board is aware of this, the funding that is currently allocated to deal with World Cup. The question, and I think you could say these are kind of our recommendations. The World Cup is going to be essentially over a 6-week period. There's only 6 games that are going to be played in Seattle. Now, there are other matches that are going to be played all over different cities and so on. And at Bremerton being designated as a fan zone, they will have access to the coverage of all of those games. Now, I believe that the fan zone folks are pretty much obligated to play the events that are occurring in Seattle. But in brief discussions that we've had with the folks that are they're spending a lot of money for this Megatron TV to be able to show the 6 games. So if they have access, it's a matter of just flicking the switch. Now, whether they do any organized efforts around that, but it may be occurring more than just the 6 games. But regardless, we're thinking that right now that we would concentrate on those 6 because we just don't have to go beyond that. Some of the things that we're looking at doing, and we're currently, yes.
Can we ask questions along
Yes.
the way?
Yeah, just turn your mic on, please.
Yeah, sorry. At this point, Saturday we'll have extra service because it's the summer, right?
We will be operating on Saturday, yes, during the summer months.
Okay, and what about Sunday?
We do not operate on Sunday.
Mhm. Okay.
Currently, we do not operate on Sunday.
Is there a scenario, would we have enough money to operate on days during the 6-week period?
Can I hold answering
Yep.
that until we get through this? Because I want you folks to kind of see the price tag of what we're talking before we, and if you want us to do more, fine, but that's why I wanted to have this discussion here. So Mike, please.
Thanks.
No,
What is the constraint on the 315,000? Like, can it be used thing or only?
It can be used anything that is World Cup related that we will be expending.
Okay. And the second and last question is this giant Megatron TV. Can you tell us what organization is providing it?
I don't know. It's the city of Bremerton is organized, and I don't know if it's the Main Street or who's paying for it, but I think you're obligated to have some method to show, and I just know that's what's planned.
Town Bremerton Association is together. That's great news.
I don't know that for sure. I'm just saying whomever, it's a city that out, so I don't.
Thank you.
this may be in the presentation, John, but are we looking at fast ferry service during game days from Kingston and Southworth and Bremerton, or was it primary just Bremerton?
Primary Bremerton, but it's in the presentation and we'll
Okay.
talk about it. And this is just our,
Yeah.
so.
Understand.
Now, the additional security that we're talking, as I said, we have 24 security currently here. We also have a contract with the city of Bremerton that we hire an off-duty officers to be on the transit deck during the afternoon commute. What we're thinking is that we would, if there would be additional resources available with our contract with Bremerton, to have an officer there during the time that we're going to operate in. If beyond our normal operating hours, that's where we think it would be valuable. Just wanted to put the number in. Now it's anyone's guess of just how many are going to be coming to Kitsap County during this event. I mean, I've heard the 750,000 coming to the Puget Sound and so on. So we don't know, but I think the word that we need now is that it is estimating somewhere between 1,000 and 5,000 people. So it's kind of equivalent to the Blackberry Fest, just to kind of put it in perspective. That could be out for a period of time. People are coming and going, so we really don't know. So next, one of the other things that we think is important and what we've learned so far is when you get large crowds that are not familiar with the area, that are to figure out what to do, that's where problems arise, the confusion and who's doing what and that sort of thing. So we want to try to avoid that as much as possible. So we're looking at having additional on-site ambassadors, primarily at night, but it could go beyond to make sure that there's someone there. We're talking about having some wayfinding signs, but having somebody here that can help, you know, that bus goes to the hotel, this bus goes somewhere else and that kind of thing. We're also talking about with the ferries, having more with the ferry operation, we call them Marine Service Ambassadors, MSA, primarily because we run both ferries to Port Orchard and ferries to Seattle, and I think we're going to need some folks there that can help. This is the boat. You don't get on this boat to Port Orchard unless you're intending to go to Port Orchard, that sort of thing. So we're looking at increase both for the ferry as well as up on the deck. Now I'm talking primarily right now the Bremerton operation. I've been accused of that for years. But
That fourth bullet, ambassadors, that's you would look to pay some folks or.
we're anticipating that it would be our staff because we're going to need to train folks in giving out the information, dealing with folks with multiple languages and things of that nature. Now, if we can supplement it, I know that Commissioner Walters is working with folks and they're looking at ambassadors. If we're able to take advantage of some of that, great. But I'm thinking worst case scenario, we need to make sure we have somebody there. So we'll have to deal with it. You know, there's a lot of things that are going to be going on with Fan Fest and everything else. So we have enough volunteers. I don't know, but either way, we need to make sure we have somebody. Okay. Our approach to this is that really we don't know how many folks are coming and going, how many are going to come to Kitsap County. We've been, Sanjay's been working with some of the organizations that's been going on to try to plan for this. For example, we don't really have a good picture yet of how many rooms are going to be available in the hotels. The hotel's occupancy rate currently is relatively high. So much today with the government shut down, but assuming that the government is still operating next summer. You know, the Navy has a lot of people that come and go into this area and they consume an awful lot of the capacities in the hotel. So how many rooms are going to be available? We don't know. Running blind with some extent. Regardless, Washington State Ferries now has 2 boats running on Bremerton. Those vessels carry anywhere from 1,200 to 1,500 walk-on passengers on those boats. So we're kind of them to be the major load between Bremerton and Seattle. Now, we think it's prudent for us to be prepared for, in the event that Washington State Ferries loses one of their vessels, we're looking at, can we shuffle things around that we could bring in one of our large bow loaders to help fill in for that vacancy. Now, this would be in addition to our current service that we run between Bremerton and Seattle. This would be a boat large enough that we could actually pull into one of the car slips and actually replicate, if you will, the service. Now, the other thing with one of the bow loaders, we cannot operate those things high speed through a rich passage. We cannot get to Bremerton or to Seattle as quickly as we do with what our plan would be. We had to bring that in. It would be operating very, very close to what Washington State's very schedule is, just so that we're not pushing the envelope through rich passage. So it's more of 200, 250 seats of added capacity. It's not going to do much for time savings. And again, this would be in addition RPs, and it would only be operated in the event WSF couldn't run 2 boats.
John, could we crew up the Solana, the bigger boats, the 3s, and use the second deck?
Yeah, we could. And that's kind of what we would probably do, but we're limited on what vessels can pull into. So
Well, that's
the
true.
Solano was modified. You mentioned Solano, we could operate that, but the Finest, for example, we could not operate in and out of the car deck. The Commander and those Intight, they can operate. Those are the ones we use at Southworth when necessary. So that is more just kind of in our back pocket that we want to be prepared for, so that the community doesn't get impacted tremendously, but we're not proposing to do that unless we're needed to do that. And I've had one brief conversation with Washington State Ferries. It's a bit challenging because they're about to start work on their 2 slips down here. So Bremerton is going to be limited to only having 1 operating slip. So we'll have to work with them to figure out what kind of a schedule we could operate. That dock is going to be open when the second boat that they're not able normally would be there. So hopefully we could operate it. I have to get Washington State Ferries permission, obviously, and their folks will have to be the ones that raise and lower the gangplanks. Okay, I just wanted to show, this is WSF's current schedule for the Bremerton-Seattle route. You can see the departures out of Seattle. There's a 10:30, there's a 12:50 a.m. and so on. So they're going to be running fairly late, but the 12:50, remember, that's an hour trip essentially out of Seattle, but it does happen. So moving on to our routes, this is the current schedule that we operate, and we wanted to highlight those yellow sailings are the sailing state is currently paying us to operate, and they will continue to pay us to operate through August. So that level of service is available today, and we'll be here through World Cup.
Separate from the 350, separate from the 300 plus that you showed us at the beginning.
Yes.
for FIFA.
Okay. This is what we propose to operate for the game days only, and just those days. And you could see this would provide service on the ferries up until the last sailing would be 12 a.m. out of Seattle. So it kind of fills in some of that service that WSF is currently running, and some of that between the 10:50 and the 12:50, whatever. Now you can see the extra sailings would begin at 8:10, and I will also, I guess I should probably put the caveat that this is going to stress our operation. We believe we can do that with our current crews. They'll be working hard, and we're going to be working with them, but we believe we could man this level of service with existing crews. So,
John, is this contingent upon an evening game, or would, if afternoon game, we'd run that latest service regardless?
at this point, we felt that we would just run this on each game day, whether it's a late game day or not, because again, not sharing what fan zone things, what other activities are going on in Seattle, don't know. Plus, it would be very challenging for us to have a variable schedule. Well, this is the schedule we're going to operate this day, but we're not going to do it on that day. It's going to be hard enough to say on days only service, and the rest of the week, for example, we won't.
So the only reason I brought that up is I noticed that we have a period of, the fueling and maintenance at those times. And I go, the game when the Sounders played PSG, that was a noon start game. So that's why I was trying to bring up, I didn't know how flexibility, because I don't think the game's time been released yet and stuff. So I was just asking about flexibility, but this is more what I'm hearing is not worst case scenario. This is the additional service we're looking at right now. So
yeah, this is the additional service that we're talking about doing. Again, we can promote that we would do this on game days only. Again, if there's an early game, we don't really know what other activities are going to be going on. I know that one of the fan zones at the Seattle Center, they're going to have almost 24/7 activities. I mean, they're just doing a tremendous amount to promote. So how many folks will be coming from here going that direction? I don't know. Sanjay, you want to come up and join? Sanjay has really been our point person on all of this stuff.
Midday, the states run their two boats, and we don't maintain our boats, and we're gonna break our system,
Yeah, and I want to make perfectly clear, and I want to make sure that I didn't mislead you, Commissioner Rolfus. These are our current boats. These are 118 passenger ferries that we're operating. So relative, again, not knowing what the demand is relative to Washington State boats, it's a small percentage of ridership, but it is still some additional capacity that we're putting on, and certainly a much faster.
Could I add just one thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Sanjay Bhatt, Marketing Director. So yesterday we received a briefing from the Seattle FIFA World Cup organization to the WISTA marketing group. December 5th is a key date. December 5th is when we'll find out which teams are playing and the game is what we were told. So tell us which countries, and as we know, certain countries our current federal government has banned travel from. So that will affect the fans, the number of fans. So December 5th is a key date that'll give us some idea of how many people may be coming here. And if it's Argentina and Brazil, that's very different from other countries whose smaller fan base. So key date. And we're saying once we know the game times, we'll know whether it's a noon kickoff or not. Yeah.
Now, along those lines, and this is something I've heard, and I have not been able to validate it, but if there are teams that have been prohibited from coming to the U.S. or make it very, very challenging, the World Cup organization drive to elf games will probably happen in Vancouver. Be scheduled in the U.S. So those games will be played. Well, that's a whole different issue, but currently there are some countries that are restricted for travel. Yeah, they'll schedule those teams to play in British Columbia. So I don't know. This is what I've been hearing. But okay, the other thing that I wanted to add is what we're proposing here is that for these late hours, and this is going to get us off the ferry after this discussion, but we're also planning to extend the Port Orchard Bremerton route to coincide with that. So, for example, we'll go back to the schedule, please. The last vessel that is scheduled to arrive in Bremerton at 12:30 a.m., we would probably have a 12:40 would be the last sailing from Bremerton to Port Orchard. Just again, it's a relatively easy thing for us to be able to add. And again, we believe that with our current capacity, staffing wise, that this is something that we could do. Okay, now you can go to the next slide. This is our estimated cost to do this. As you can see, we're both the Bremerton Seattle is about 74,000. Port Orchard to Bremerton is about 59, but then what you can see down below the anticipated cost for MSAs for the ferries and the additional costs for maintenance, because it is going to be, we're going to be taxing our maintenance crews as well. These boats are going to not be as available to the folks to be able to maintain as they are under our normal schedule. Fueling and things of that nature will be built into this, and that's going to be a bit of a challenge. It's just, we have to schedule things. So I wanted you folks to see, this is kind of the price tag that we're talking about for the ferry operation. $233. The total for the ferries.
MSAs, is that 73 plus? 50?
You can see it down at the bottom there. You can see 100,000, and the extra maintenance is 100,000. So that is added to the cost of operating these boats to bring it up to 233.
So this, just to clarify, so this is just for Bremerton. So if we were thinking no, Port Orchard and Bremerton service.
Correct.
So if we looked at Southworth or Kingston, we just plan on tripling it on that side. The only reason I was suggesting those is just because of parking and stressing on the infrastructure. But I can see at this cost, it's probably only reasonable to do one. What's the main player?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not getting that.
No, it's 100 plus. Well, that's a good thing.
Number, this number. And so it's kind of like two separate.
Oh, yeah. The MSAs are above, and then it also shows it broke down below. So that's if you, it's 159 plus the 3, and then just add the 100,000, that's going to get you, and I don't have the adding sheet.
There's the 9,000. Here's the fast ferry at, if you add these two numbers, the 23,000. So that's these two numbers. The MSAs are here at the 50 and the 50. And then the extra maintenance is not reflected up here, but it is. Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Now we're going to talk the land side of this evening. So we've been looking at what level of service is going to be needed. And again, we don't know based on room availability. We have not a clue on bed and breakfast, all of those other things that would have an impact. But what we did do is we looked at our current routed structure and we placed where are all the hotels. And as you notice that route, which is our 212, goes by pretty much most of the hotels in the Bremerton, Silverdale area, which we think that's where most of the people are going to be going to. So initially we were thinking, well, we need to expand the frequency of service or at least a duration on both the east side and the west side. But now I think what we need to do is just look at expanding to the west side because that's going to touch most of the hotels that we see. In our proposal, we're talking about expanding service on game days for just this one route, the 212. You can see the yellow is the additional service we'd operate after our normal service would be shutting down on those days. So every Thursday, we have a bus leaving down here that will go by most of the hotels, and every 30 minutes we have a bus leaving Silverdale. So it's one of these things that the buses have every 30 minutes a bus coming, and we always have every bus going towards Silverdale. We'll have to do a bit of a go back to that map for 1 second. We're going to have to do a reroute on the 212 so that we can get by the hotels in Silverdale, the one there, it's off of Buckland Hill. Currently, this route doesn't go there, but we have to do a little bit of a jog so we could get by the hotel. So, yeah, the fairgrounds is over one street from where the street name of fairgrounds is located down a little bit. Yeah, it's kind of right. Pardon me? No, it's the fairgrounds itself is not on the route. It's the housing area along Central Valley is where the bus currently travels. 217, but we're only talking about adding to the blue route there, the 212.
I'm just thinking, Joe. Bremerton is the part of Central, right? And you don't.
Correct.
Another option is fairly big Central parking lot and then just and you can't do that all day. The USCG or park grounds having a central space. Right.
I guess my only concern, or at least needs to be recognized, is that during this entire time, obviously there's Saturday games, but during this entire time, the community at large is pushing everybody comes to work as normal. So park and rides, to the extent that they're being used today, probably will be used at the same level. So I'm not sure just how much parking is going to be available.
That's
Now,
what I was thinking.
yeah, well, the fairgrounds is something that it certainly look at, but it's not included in these numbers right now. And again, that's why I'm bringing it here so we can have this kind of discussion and say, what are we missing? What do you think?
Indian already has 30-minute service to the fairground.
Microphone.
We just, excuse me.
People on Zoom can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So we already have 30 minutes service to the fairgrounds. We just don't have the expanded planned.
Correct. It doesn't run as late as what we're proposing to raise to 12-4. Now, we do have a little bit of additional things. So, okay, let's go. Again, that's the schedule that what we're thinking about operating. We just continue with the 30-minute schedule with the last bus leaving, as you can see, downtown at, guess I'm looking, BT's on there would be 12:03. So we'll have to tweak it, but in essence, we want a bus to meet the last of our ferry boats coming in to be able to get folks to and from. Okay, the next one. Now, all of those pretty colors on that map are the existing service that we operate in Bremerton. What we're proposing to do is that all of those routes, when they normally shut down in the evening, we would then implement a, we don't want to call it ferry to home, but essentially on-demand bus that would be dedicated for the east side of Bremerton and one for the west side. So it would be scheduled to the terminal probably when the WSF boats come in, because that's where we think the largest amount of people will be coming on. So if you're not going to one of the hotels that's on the 212 route, you can get on if you're going to, you know, somewhere, if you're residents here, some in West Bremerton or East Bremerton, we'll take you to the bus stop nearest you, you know, your normal bus stop. So the bus will just go based on demand. It's not going to have a fixed route. The only thing that'll be scheduled is a departure from the ferry terminal only to be able to respond to those that are coming home. And we're proposing to operate those two on-demand buses after the regular service would shut down in the evening, and we would make those available throughout the same period of time we're talking about running the 212. So,
There. Thanks. So obviously very happy about on-demand in Bremerton. Will the on-demand work in both directions, or will it only work like if you're at the ferry terminal? If for you would like to go to the ferry terminal, you make a call?
They're going to be from the ferry terminal home. The intended purpose of this is to be able to get people home. If we did offer both directions, I'm not sure that we could get enough. I don't know that the bus would have enough time to go out and drop people off that are wanting to go home, plus pick up the people. So we're talking two buses, one dedicated to the west, one dedicated to the east, and its only purpose is to take people home. Yeah.
Okay, so.
Go ahead. Yep.
Okay, thanks. So the primary purpose here is to service people who are in hotels. And if there is service to residents, that's an additional, is that correct?
Well, the people that are in hotels would be on the 212.
Right.
These two on-demand buses would be for local residents that also are in Seattle and want to go home,
Or people in Airbnbs.
as long as
For
they're in
example.
those shaded areas, because we don't believe we could operate much beyond that. And again, have enough time to drop people off and then get back in time for the next boat.
I would love any data possible on this, as of course you all know. Thank you.
I'm sorry? Oh, I thought Commissioner Ralph was saying.
Oh, I just think let's build in tracking on all of this. So
Oh, yeah.
it's a great science experiment.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Just make sure the on is just in the evening, the additional evening service, or?
Correct.
Okay, so that's just for that
It's only there when the routes,
3 hour period.
all those pretty colors shut down at night. Would not have any service after that point. We're talking about these two buses in addition to the 212 that we would come on. Now, we're also talking about having one bus on demand at the Port Orchard Ferry Terminal, because we're going to be running that Port Orchard boat until the last sailing. We'll have a bus there after the regular service sets down, and it too will be in the general that we have of the 4 routes that we operate in Bremerton, or excuse me, in Port Orchard, in it? And 4 of it.
And move people to the closest.
And or the one outlier in Port Orchard is that there is one hotel out at Sedgwick and Highway 16. They don't have bus service. It's on-demand bus in Port Orchard. We could include that as a station, but otherwise, stop nearest your home.
Thanks, your
Yeah,
comment.
thanks, Chair. Like on Bainbridge Island, you can make occasional stops that aren't stops. So on the on-demand, will riders be able to stop in a place that, if feasible, is not a stop, but closer to where they live?
I got to be real careful with that, because although we do an awful lot of what we call flag stops, we have to be careful where we do flag stops and whether the stop is safe and whether it's If it's on a state highway, we're kind of limited to where we can stop because those stops are sanctioned by thing in Bremerton, because Bremerton approves the stop locations that we have. Going outside of that is problematic, but I mean, we're only talking 6 days. So I guess at that point, I'm asking for forgiveness.
But we got to be safe. The last thing we
Oh,
want is somebody
absolutely.
to get
That's
hit by a car.
Number
and-
one is going to be safe.
Yeah.
Okay. The thing that we're going to be coming to ask the city of Bremerton for in this whole plan is, one, we've got to make sure that we always have access to the Bremerton Ferry Terminal for our buses. Whatever parties you guys plan to do, Mayor, just please make sure that we have access so we can get the buses in and out of the ferry terminal. That's going to be the critical point. Number two, we currently allow the cabs up on the transit deck to pick up and drop off, and we plan to do that as well. But that there's going to be an increased amount of ride sharing Uber. Uber generally is not sitting around waiting at a taxi stand. They're only coming when somebody orders it, but they need a place to go. And what we're going to be asking for, there's, I think, 3 parking spaces right there, that during these 6 days, if those 3 parking spaces could be designated as pick up and drop off.
Yeah.
It could be used by local residents that are going to be dropping off to go to the ferry, or it could be used by Uber type service that's going to come and pick up people when they order a ride. So that's yet to be determined, but we're going to be asking the city for that. Okay. This is kind of the service area I talked about, take home bus in Port Orchard. And we just grabbed one of our maps. This happens to be the map for the number 8 route, one of the run in Port Orchard, but that's kind of the service area that the on-demand bus would be available for after our normal service shuts down. Bainbridge Island and Paulsbo also have rooms, but quite, there's not as many. What we're proposing to do, if you could go back. Oh, I guess not. Go to Bainbridge. I'm sorry. I thought there was one other one, but Charlotte, bless her heart, was working last night until 5 o'clock to get this final thing done. So anyway, what we're proposing to do is to run the 390 route, which is the bus that runs from the Bainbridge terminal to Paulsbo, that we would continue to run that after the normal service would shut down. So could help with folks who are destined for the hotels in Paulsbo to be able to get to it. Now, on the island itself, I wanted to remind the board that all of those orange lines are the areas that we currently serve during the afternoon commute. We have a morning commute system, which is these lines. We take everybody to the ferry boat. Middle of the day, we don't operate those. We run BI Ride, which is on demand. In the afternoon, we go back to running these commuters routes to take them from the ferry terminals back home. What we're proposing to do is, when we normally would be shutting down, go ahead to the next one, we're going to be looking at continuing to use the BI Ride service since the community is familiar with that. We would just extend that route, our service, if you will. We will have it kind of limited to the number of vehicles just because within what we can afford. But we would also look at extending that service to connect with Washington State Ferries. Obviously, we're not doing anything with BSF. So next. Here's the cost for the bus things that we're about. Basically $100,000 to do all of that extra service at night on the 212, the demand responsives, and so on. So you can kind of break down of how many buses and all of that. Now, this is going to be kind of stretching us a little bit. We're continuing our effort to recruit operators. So we're going to continue that emphasis to bring on operators. Now, we're not going to do overboarding on that, we'll probably have to have a few extra operators than what we normally would. But then when World Cup is over with, we have an attrition rate that we think we could relatively quickly bring that number back down to where we need to be. So we might beef up staff as normal retirements and so on happen. We think it won't take long for us to get right back down to where we need to be. So this is the tag as far as the bus site. Now for the not so good news. You're all going to be hearing our proposed budget over the next couple, 2 or 3 weeks. And I just want to make sure that the board understands that what we're presenting to you in the budget for next year does not include any of this. So just keep that in mind. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about is wayfinding. That 315,000, what I'm thinking is, what can we do with that that's going to have a long lasting benefit to the community? And what we think, although these signs are going to be relatively inexpensive, we are going ahead to the next one, looking at these kinds of, if you will, wayfinding. Now, these are just examples. This happens to be one. Next slide. This is another one that we could look at. And then there's a third one. Once again, it's that kind of thing. Now, what we're proposing right now is that we would install something like one of these here at the Bremerton Ferry Terminal, at the Wheaton Terminal, and at the Silverdale Transit Center, so that folks in those areas will have the ability to get a better understanding of where their buses are and where they're going. And again, these are things that will continue on. Now, we're talking roughly 150,000 worth of to do the transit centers that we're talking about. Some of the systems we're looking at out at the transfer center, it varies depending on the conduits and things that the facilities. There are systems that are available that both cellular communication, so we don't have to hardwire them into the internet. Plus, they have solar so that they will generate during the day enough power to keep them operating. So there might be some of those inserted, but we're thinking roughly right around $150,000 of that 315 that we're going to get, that we're going to suggest that we put these towards that as justification of the funds that we're asking for, because we have to do a grant ask.
But you already have 315,000.
We have to apply for it come December 1. It's been allocated to Kitsap Transit, but the applications are due December 1. Our expectation is that we're going to get the 315. The makers on how those funds will be allocated is a combination of Washington DOT and the Washington State Transit Association. So they're kind of the decision makers.
John, I totally support this, but having just recently visited Boston and utilized their transit system, these types of signs are fabulous for locals because we know the names of these destinations. The folks that aren't from here, that graphic illustration I found was
Go back to the
in particular here at the Bremerton Transit Center, the map showing that hotel route, the one more back.
Go back to the standing one more back. These are either the folds down on the bottom.
Yeah.
Kind of temporary.
Yeah.
They're professional, and that's what we're thinking, that we would have more in this kind of a line for those. And it probably wouldn't be nearly as large, but what we're really looking for in the ferry terminal is an example. Just need signs that would be able to direct people. This is to the fan zone. This is to the buses that take you. I mean, pretty rudimentary.
I like this too, but I would encourage one large graphic too that is the system. So somebody can walk up and look at the map and go, oh, I'm going there. That's the bus and it's that many stops.
Except, and I'm not arguing with you. I just want to point out that these are temporary. These are only going to be for the
Yeah.
6 games. We're just trying to get the basic information. And the other thing that we remember is we don't know what countries are going to be here. So a lot is going to be done with pictures more so than text. And
that's what I'm referring to is
I hear what you're
Bremerton,
saying,
where
but
the
yeah,
bus is going and the number.
yeah. And Sanjay has been working with the folks, you know, in Seattle as well as the folks here that are talking about events to consistent in our messaging so that, you know, whether it's our sign or somebody else's sign, it's kind of something that, oh yeah, this is the one I have to pay attention to.
Yeah, and we've been like waiting for FIFA to give us permission to do things. So we're now in the early stages of developing those plans. We just got the wayfinding standards from FIFA. We just got told what words we can't use on our maps. So like we can't use the word World Cup on our maps telling visitors going to the World Cup. We can't use FIFA on our maps telling people the FIFA event. So we're just starting to do this process and it's a very valuable.
Anna, go ahead.
Thanks. So can we say, if perhaps you would like to see a friendly game across the water? Okay.
We can name the stadium.
So the comment I wanted to make is that these are all nice upscale ideas. And I think they'd be effective. And I like the idea of the system map, but don't we already have a real-time map available online?
We do.
So this would to be of lasting benefit to the community of Bremerton, where we have a population turnover. We have people coming 2 years by, at a time, and then they are redeployed or their contract runs out. So something that would be of enduring benefit would be QR links that would be maintained to the system map, to the real-time information. And I think it's especially appropriate here because this is a younger crowd. It's 2025. People will be easily able to access this whatever country they're from. If they're under 60, they'll get it. So I think that would not just be useful here, but would be useful down the line for Bremerton, which is a tourist hub of people coming in, working, moving on.
I think the message that I convey is that I guess there's 2 systems that we're talking about. We're talking about pretty low cost, temporary wave during the 6 games. And then we're talking about more of the display units, like go to the second, for example, if you will. Next one. This kind of technology allows us to change it when necessary. This kind of technology would allow us to be able to put the system map in during the operation. This technology would allow us to put out a special rider alert for something. This is technology that's going to help us during World Cup. It's going to have long-lasting benefit to the agency for whatever and however we put information up, but have that flexibility. So that's the message that we're proposing with doing this kind of an event. Now, there are some other incidental costs that come along with, for example, the ride company, the company that has the Pingo app, the system that we're using in Kingston and South Kitsap and Sunday Service and BI Ride. They're working on an app that we can put on a tablet and have temporary standalone tablets in the lobbies of the hotels where they can go up to and request a ride. Now, last discussion that to me with those folks developing that app, if you will, at no cost to us, because obviously they see that there's a universal benefit to other communities. So that's another thing. When we expand the dial-a-ride ferry to home buses, that thing. We may have to purchase additional licensing from them. So there's some of those incidental costs, but I just want to kind of order of magnitude. I wanted to show you what we're talking about dollar-wise for these additional things that we're talking about. And I wanted to see, are we on the right path? Are we doing too much? Are we not doing enough? I wanted to get some guidance from you because we're trying to build that now. So
John, is there more to this presentation
Nope.
or is this your grand finale?
that's the grand finale.
So then can we see like, what's the summary of all the costs?
Me, we have a comment, question.
Yeah.
Got a couple more questions here.
All right. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Thanks, John. And Sanjay, and anybody who worked on this, you've covered a lot, and, just somebody who's going to be, trying to coordinate quite a bit of, activity downtown. I'm comfortable with the amount of research you're putting and effort you're putting into this, and your focus to me is spot on. So we don't know how much activity we're going to have. We just can't tell. Imagine a World Series with Seattle coming here, and then expand that to a global event with global interest. And so I think preparing for the 1,000 to 5,000 people coming to Bremerton daily, I think is right. And I'd rather over prepare in this case, because as I've mentioned, we're trying to create the best experience possible. We still have a working community where 22,000 people come into the city of Bremerton just for one operation, which is the shipyard. And there's way more than that, intercity commerce, business commerce, education, health, just, a lot of activity there too. So stay on it. We'll keep working together. We'll keep in communication. I think one of the things that's gonna start to come into focus is when we are able to solidify what we're going to offer as an experience in downtown Bremerton. When we can secure a video screen or a screen and make sure, and the other activities surrounding it, that's when you're going to come into focus. We know there's more to come on that. So, all right.
Let's go ahead.
Yeah, sorry I didn't wave. My mic's been on, thought it might catch me. Couple of comments. I like this slide. It's pretty high in Spokane that day. I like this one because it looks more like the apps that people use. One Bus Away and others, showing that the one thing that is missing is perhaps estimated time. But other than that, and on the, and I'm sorry I missed the Title VI presentation, but what preparations are we doing once we know the country? These are clearly going to be bilingual because it's not going to be helpful for someone from Spain if they can't read. So is that part of the plan to have fundamental language directions and wayfinding for those countries?
Yeah.
The whole thing is, it's a work in progress. Until we know who's playing, we don't know what languages, but we need to be prepared to deal with whatever languages come in. We've already, for example, we've done an assessment of our current staff. How many of our current staff know Spanish, for example, so that we can try to assess our current resources that we have in-house. Obviously, Spanish isn't the only language that will be coming, but as we learn more, we'll be morphing this to be more specific, but this is kind of general what we're thinking about and what we're doing as we get more information. Another example is, as the mayor mentioned, the estimates are 1,000 to 5,000. How many are going to come off the boats? We're going to have 2 buses for take home and 1 bus for the 212. That can only carry 45, 50 people. We're going to be prepared to, if we get overwhelmed that first time, we're going to have operators kind of on standby and more buses that we can muster up to the extent that we can. But we've got to be nimble to be able to be ready for it. A lot of things we've been chatting about is during, at least for the first few, if we get an idea, then maybe for the whole 6, we have an emergency operations center that we earthquakes and disaster nature. We might be to some extent standing up our EOC for these events so that we've got people right here that make the decisions right now to be able to respond to whatever. So, but more work is coming. the 50-foot level, maybe it's even 100,000-foot level. Are we on the right track again? Are we missing something? Or do we need to do something more?
Just a follow-up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree you're on the right track. That's not really the issue. I realize a lot's been put on Sanjay's shoulders, and we're a very small agency. But the other agencies, the big regional ones like Sound Transit and King County, others, they're going to have the same populations because they have the same. Can we just reach out and partner? They'll have more resources to be translators and using the right appropriate symbols. Can we? They're going to be doing that for all their hundreds of stations.
Yeah.
You partner with them. Let's not reinvent.
Yeah,
the wheel.
we've been attending regular calls with all the other transit agencies on everything from wayfinding to planning to security. Sound Transit and King County Metro of taking the lion's share of the work, and the posture they're taking in work with FIFA is developed using pictographs rather than trying to translate into multiple languages, kind of taking the approach that international airports might take. But they are also in close communication with the FIFA organization on how they've seen success at other FIFA World Cups in terms of communicating with visitors. And part of that also will be collaborating with the embassies of the countries that are sending teams, so to make sure that those embassies are providing information in advance to people, because these people who are coming are people of means. They have enough funds and world experience in traveling, so they're not going to be coming here prepared.
The other thing that I would add, just under normal course of business every day, we work very, very well with our partners around the Puget Sound. The GMs have a call once a month that we're all talking to each other, but in addition to that, we're talking a lot. So when we can rely on our, if you will, and I would include ferries into that as well, we do that, and we help each other out. I'll be talking about another subject here in a minute to give you an example. But anyway, we'll be working closely with, as Sanjay says, he attends the meetings that are being done regionally, he's doing the local. We also have another person on staff, Anna, that is kind of dedicated to help plan around some of these issues. So we're not ignoring it by any means, but we're not quite there yet. So
For the sake of time here, we're going to Councilmember Rose Vaughn.
Okay, I'll just make it real quick. I do think we're headed in the right direction, and I applaud staff for what their work so far. I think you're right. It's at 50,000 feet, and December 5th will be a huge day, knowing who's playing and what times. My only ask would be, in my international travels, the more ambassadors, the better. And I liked what you just finished up with, was talking about Washington State ferries, any signage we could get on them, or put an ambassador on them on those trips home, where they could talk to people before when they arrive, would be helpful. But that personal touch is always great for as much as possible for international folks visiting. Thank you.
yep, wonderful.
We got other things to get to. Give me quick.
I
Turn
am-
your mic on.
I'm a little frustrated because I don't understand what you're asking from us other than maybe feedback, but it sounds, if you have to do a application, you're gonna see that before you go forward with it. And then my concern is I would like us to get grant money to provide the service, and there's not enough grant funding for everything you listed plus 9. So my preference, apply for the grant to do the bus service and then figure out when we do our budget, whether we have budget for the signs or whether Kitsap Transit could apply for lodging tax money, which I think might be something that would be considered.
Those are great things, and I'm looking for every penny that we can find. And it's just a matter of, we've got 315,000. You can see we're talking close to 400,000 for what we've talked about service related. We're talking another 150 to 175 for signage. What I'm looking for in the grant application is something that we can apply for that's easily tracked, easily documented. And when it comes to, auditing, did you spend the money on what, we can easily do it. Still going to require additional. Hope is that we can, we got another legislative session. Everybody is talking about the state has no money, and I would agree, but there's always some budget dust laying around somewhere that we could go ask for some additional funding to help cover those. And I think going to the legislature, I personally think we would have better luck asking for funds to pay for the service, because they can grasp that versus a nice to have with these reader boards.
But John, if we get a grant, if we spend all our money on signs, we're going to have to go into our budget to pay for the bus service that the legislature gave us the money to cover. I'm not gonna lobby for money for service because we decided to buy signs with what they gave us last year. That's not something I'm wanna align with. So I guess I'm just concerned, if you spend this money on signs, we're gonna have to go into our budget theoretically to get money to pay for the service that we know we need.
I mean, we can apply any difference. We're still going to spend the money, whether if we buy the signs out of our budget, we still have to put the money in for the.
But we
signs.
didn't approve fancy signs. That's a big budget expense that we would approve in the budget.
Yeah, and we're about to start the budget process. So I think I hear your point.
You're probably going to have to, somewhere along the line, approve a modification to the budget for service or signs or whatever the total price tag is, whether it's in the capital budget for sign acquisition or whether it's in the operating budgets.
We
Either
really got
way, you're going to have to deal with it at some point. That's why, I appreciate your frustration. And again, this is a 50,000. I just wanted some guidance from you folks as to what are we missing? Are we doing too much? That kind of a thing. And again, it's a work in progress. We're going to have to fill out the grant application. Make a lot of difference to me if we're going to do it in service or whether we're going to do it in capital acquisition.
quickly.
Yeah, just real quick, I agree with what Commissioner Rolpes said. And, actually, when I was looking at the list as presented, I was working my way down in order of priority.
Mhm.
With the understanding the first two, there's some interconnection, but the last one being a nice to have. So, yeah, and John, just one last thing. I didn't know after this presentation, you're going to go out, we're going to go for the grant. We understand what what you would like to see it spent on. Will there be another check-in with us?
Lots.
Okay, so all the way to approval, head nod, or
Well,
how it's appropriated, or?
this is way beyond my authority in the
Yeah.
budget, and it's not in the budget,
Got it.
whether it be the service or whatever. So yes, you're going to have to be involved with, ultimately, we're going to have a plan that's going to have the price tag that's going to have to be inserted in the budget to cover it. So it's coming.
Yeah.
And you will have to approve that.
Right.
$3,000 here, that is a noticeable amount of money.
Absolutely. Okay, that's it.
All right. I know John's got a couple of important things in the executive director items, so.
Yeah,
We're gonna move
there's one in particular that I wanted to get. I would like to get your permission, and you could probably just do this with the motion, but I'd like your authority to be able to remove the fares, all of our service for federal employees by just simply showing their federal ID. With the federal government shut down right now, and there's people that are required to show not getting a paycheck, they're having a tough time, paying for parking, buying their gas to get to and from work. So I think it's something that I would certainly encourage that we remove the fares off of our service if they have a federal ID, and that giving me the authority, one, to do that, and two, to be able to determine at some point when it would be appropriate to reinstitute the fares. To give you one example, the folks that work at the Puget Sound Naval Shipyard that ride our service generally pays for their bus pass. They have to apply mid-month for the bus pass for the following month. They've already missed the window for November. So the passes that they have now are not going to be available for them come November 1. if this government shutdown goes beyond mid-November, there's a high likelihood that they may miss the opportunity for December. Now, I've talked 2 or 3 times with the executive director of the shipyard to try to get a feel for what's going on. Depending upon what Congress does, there may be ability that even if this goes into mid-month of November, that they could possibly get the funds available for December. So it's kind of a moving target. We don't know. But in the short run, I would like your permission to go ahead and have that authority so that we can notify the folks now. So that's one less thing that they have to worry about in the cost of getting to and from. I will also say that with Jennifer's support at the shipyard, I've talked with Mason Transit. They're meeting with their board soon this month. Amy is going to ask for the same kind of permission. I've talked with Mike Griffiths, the GM of Pierce, and he's already reached out to his board chair and got permission to do it just that way. So they're going to be doing the same free ride. If you would agree to allow me to do this, then we're going to work to Pierce and us to do kind of release. So, and that's the majority of the folks that I'm worried about right now in Washington State, or excuse me, at Puget Sound Shipyard. I don't want those people that are currently riding the bus to find an alternative because they have to pay for the bus fare. Because it will be a long time for us to get them back onto the bus, I'm afraid. And then also, just so people recognize, we've got a lot of federal employees that live in Kitsap County that commute to Seattle. Shocked, and it's been years ago, we worked with the IRS. The IRS employees live in Kitsap County, almost to the point where I want to walk around with the funny glasses and the dark mustache so they don't recognize me. But anyway, all seriousness, I think I would highly recommend that we do this, and I'm looking for your permission to go forward with it. And this
John,
has been kind of a last minute thing, so I'm sorry I don't have a resolution. I would like a motion giving me that authority.
I completely support this. And as we know, worth it 10 or 15% of our revenue comes from the fare box. So it'll impact us. It's not like we're going to lose half of our revenue.
Yeah, no, it's not going to be.
Yeah.
Quick
Councilman.
question. So this, sorry. It's red and it means it's on in another place. My question is, would this include van pool and worker driver?
I'm suggesting it's all service.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
it would
Okay,
be
I just
van
wanted to
pool,
clarify
it'd be
that.
Worker drivers. It would
Yeah.
be fast.
I'm all in favor of that. Fully support it.
And what's the price tag?
Pardon me?
How much money? What's the price tag?
I don't have a price tag. This has all been quickly in the last few days that I don't, as the mayor indicated, I don't think a lot. I'm
But-
sorry,
but-
that's not a very good
Is
answer.
it like 5,000 or 50,000 or 500,000?
That's how long it goes on.
Depending upon how long it goes, I'm seeing right now, it's probably going to be in the 10,000 range, somewhere in that ballpark.
Is there a motion?
Mayor, I move to make a motion to take away fares for any federal employees on kids with a unspecified date that will be brought back by the executive director.
Second.
If I may, if you could just include in there that you get a director to remove the fare.
And I will amend it to director to remove the fares.
Seconding.
Any further comment?
Yes.
Mayor Wheeler? Yes, go ahead.
Thanks. I feel that this is a very Ed Stern moment, so I just wanted to channel him in, because I join him in thinking that this will be a really useful, a second scientific experiment, if you will, on the making the buses free. So thank you for proposing this. Thank you for everyone who came up with this idea. Well done.
Mayor Wheeler?
Real quick, and I totally fully support this, John. And at some point, maybe mid-November, when we convene again, we'll have to make a determination of how close seeing resolution. There is no hint of a budge. There's probably protocols we'll have to join in as a partner on. to get these federal workers through this. And so that discussion hopefully will not happen, but by mid-November, we better be ready to have it if there's no budge.
Be voting on a resolution to give the executive director authority to waive the fares for federal employees. And he has the authority then to reimpose those fares at a time that at a point is deemed appropriate. Is that an accurate?
Yes.
Of the
The only
norm?
comment, it's just a motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
All in of that action, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. That passes unanimously.
Commissioner Root voted as well. So,
Thank you, Commissioner Root.
and that's it, sir. Thank you. That's-
Okay,
All right.
that's left here. We have public comment. Anybody online or in the room that wishes to address the board? All right, with that, I will adjourn our meeting today.
Thank you all. Good discussions.